It's Sunday, November 26, 2023. I've got Nugget over here. If you hear snoring, it's her. She doesn't have a care in the world. She has security looking after her. She eats twice a day. She's loved. She has a roof over her head. She has nothing to worry about. But you and I do. And there's a few things I want to talk about today. One thing before I forget, and make sure to like this video, share this video, make sure you subscribe to this channel, all of that stuff. But one thing I want to start with today before I forget is 80% of this country is living paycheck to paycheck. And all of us have got to figure out a way, some solution to not be working paycheck to paycheck. And it's much easier said than done, I realize that. It may take working overtime, it may take working an extra side hustle, maybe an extra 2 side hustles. It may take sacrifice, may take cutting something out of your life, may mean that you're not going out to dinner every weekend, it may mean that you're not going out to lunch every day, it might mean that you're not taking that vacation. Maybe it means that you're not going out drinking Friday or Saturday night. These are sacrifices. Maybe it means that you're not going to a football game or a basketball game. These are called sacrifices, and a lot of people don't want to sacrifice anything. They don't want to give anything up, yet they complain that they're living paycheck to paycheck. They complain that they don't have any money, but they can't cut the Starbucks out, they can't cut the football out, they can't cut the drinking out, etc. We must make sacrifices right now. I can tell you, personally, I live way, way, way below my means. I've made a lot of sacrifices over the years in order to have the security, to have the gold, the silver, to be 100% debt-free. I had to cut a lot of things out of my life. Certain toys, the lifestyle, and it to me just didn't matter what people thought of me with what I was driving, where I was living. None of that mattered. What mattered was being debt-free, having assets, having a cash reserve, having an emergency reserve in case something happened. That's what matters. To me, it didn't matter about games. It didn't matter about going out. It didn't matter about having the social life. It didn't matter about going on vacations. What mattered was having cash, having gold, having silver, having no debt. That's the biggest one, having no debt. And it's going to be literally impossible for you to do that, to achieve that without making sacrifices. And if you're not willing to make the sacrifice, then you're going to live with debt. And you're going to live with a lot of the financial issues that come with debt. Now, really quick here, I want to respond to a couple comments. And this is not to be critical of anybody, but I want to respond. Somebody wrote me, and this isn't the exact words, but I'll make it as close as I can. I'll paraphrase. I don't have the time to train or the time to go to the gym or time to do jiu-jitsu or time to go to the range, JB. I don't have time like you. I don't have time like you. I don't know how you do it, JB. I have X amount of kids, he said. I have a job. I work 40, 50 hours a week, etc. He did go on to say that he did all this stuff when he was younger, so he feels somewhat abled because he did this 20 or 30 years ago. Now, I will say this, all of these skills, whether it's jiu-jitsu, whether it's going to the range, whether it's going to the gym, these are all perishable skills. What you did 20, 30 years ago, that's wonderful, but it doesn't really matter today. What matters today is what are you doing today? That's wonderful. You were training and you were at the gym and you were strong 30 years ago, but that doesn't matter. What matters is what you're doing today. But again, these are perishable skills. And another thing also, when it comes to training and tactics and all that, tactics have changed. They've advanced. Training has advanced. And so you should be advancing also. What people were doing 30 years ago at a range or on the mat is completely different today. Everything has changed. So just because you were good at something 20, 30 years ago, don't rely on that today. These are perishable skills. You need to be working on these things today. I would say, just as I started with this video today, stop making excuses, start making sacrifices. If you had time to watch that video, if you had the time to make that comment, then you obviously had 30 minutes that you could go train. You could go get a workout in. You could spend a little time at the range. You could get on the mat. Too many excuses. Yes, people work. Yes, people have kids. But it's amazing that people still have time to go drink. They have time to go out to dinner. They have time to take a vacation. They have time to go to the football games. They have time to do absolutely nothing. I think if people really evaluated all the minutes in the day, all the hours in a day, they could probably find 30 to 60 minutes somewhere in the day to better themselves. Again, if you had time to watch that video and then took the time to make that comment, you definitely have time to train. People just don't want to adjust their lifestyle. Everybody can make 30 minutes a day, 30 minutes every 2 days, an hour every 2 days. Everybody can do that. I know people who are extremely busy, much busier than myself. And I'm not sitting here saying that, you know, I'm the busiest person in the world, but I try to stay somewhat busy. I do have responsibilities, but I know that there's doctors out there, lawyers out there. I can tell you that there are doctors and airline pilots that train jiu-jitsu at my academy. There are people much busier than myself that train at my academy. So stop with the excuses. Now here's another one that somebody wrote to me. I believe this was yesterday. And again, I'll paraphrase. Why do you care about people spending money and running up debt? Worry about yourself. And I've touched on this many, many times, and I guess I'm going to touch on this again. To this individual, that's a great question, and I'm going to answer it for you. I worry about people and their reckless spending because I'm going to have to pay for this just like most taxpayers. I care about people in this country. I don't want to see them out of control and become debt slaves. I don't want to see them go bankrupt. I don't want to see them to become debt slaves. Again, I'm going to be on the hook for this. Other taxpayers will be on the hook for this. You may not have experienced 2008. Maybe you slept through it. But back in 2008, we had to bail out banks. We had to bail out automakers. These banks that made the terrible loans, real estate loans back in 2008. You should go back, do a little research, go back, read your history a little bit about the housing crash, the financial crash of 2008, and how many banks had to be bailed out. Not just American banks, but foreign banks. How many automakers had to be bailed out? Airlines have been bailed out. Guess who paid for that? We did, the taxpayer. I paid for it. People watching this video today paid for it, and we're never going to forget it. So here we are again, more reckless than ever, from $10 trillion in debt to $34 trillion in debt. Think about how much damage has been done in the last 15 years, from $10 trillion in debt to almost $34 trillion in debt. And you tell me not to worry. First off, this is a country that I still love. I may not love the way it's being run, but I love this country, and I love the people of this country. And I remember 2008 very, very clearly. And I remember who paid for all of it. And again, who they're going to want to pay for it all over again when this next crash happens. But go back and do your research. But ask yourself what kind of person you are to not care about the country they live in and the people here living in this country. First off, as an American, of course I care what people are doing. I care about the direction that this country is going in. I care about who's going to pay for all this recklessness. I care about what's going to happen to people when they go homeless, when people don't have food, because they went out and spent recklessly. I care about people being enslaved, because the more people spend, the more broke they become, the more reliant they become on the system. And the more reliant people are on the system, the more enslaved they are to the system. Don't be ignorant. And again, this was a great question. I'm not judging this person, but don't be ignorant. Think about what you're saying, not to care about what other people are doing, not to care about what's happening to this country. You got to get out of your bubble. You got to get out of your bubble, because if you work, if you pay taxes, if you have kids, if you have grandkids, your kids, your grandkids, everybody is going to pay for this mess. Remember that, please. Now, shifting gears, let's talk a little bit about what's happening today. Americans face mounting food insecurity amid rising inflation and soaring prices. This was an article on Axios. Inflation and mounting grocery prices are preventing Americans from making donations during the holiday season. This is a time when people typically donate. They give to the charities. They donate food to the food banks. It's not happening as much this year. Only 25% of people surveyed said they are likely to donate. 25%. 51% said that grocery prices are forcing them to cut cost in other areas. Yes, one of those areas is donating food and money to charities. 25% expressed anxiety about their ability to afford food in the next 3 to 6 months. 44 million Americans live in food insecure households. You know, you almost have to ask yourself, are we talking about the United States of America or some third world country? No, we're talking about the United States of America. 7 in 10 lower and middle income parents struggle to afford to pay for Thanksgiving dinner this year. I mean, this is shocking, but it's becoming a regular event. Here's another one from the Hedge today. Only 36% still believe in the American dream. That is sad. That is sad. People no longer believe in the American dream. They're losing hope. They're losing faith. Wall Street Journal did a poll. Strength of the U.S. economy. 35% said that the economy was excellent. 65% said it was not good or poor. That 35%, I'd like to talk to them. But the majority, hands down, say this economy is very, very poor. Is the economy the same or worse than it was 50 years ago? 30% said it's better, 50% said it's worse, 20% said it's about the same. Economic and political systems are stacked against the people. 50% said they strongly agree or somewhat agree. 39% said that they somewhat disagree or strongly agree. Comment down below. What do you think about all this? What do you think? I got to ask you this, though. What do you think about the strength of the U.S. economy? Comment down below. Is it doing excellent, or is it doing poor, or is it just mediocre? I would say, no doubt, hands down, at least in my lifetime, this is the worst economy I have ever seen. And people much older than myself would say and have said that this is the worst they've ever seen it. Here's another one from the Hedge today. These are the top 50 largest importers in the world. You can go to the article, check it out. But guess who number one is? The number one importer in the world is, yes, America. Tops the list. We are very, very dependent on other nations. The United States, $3.4 trillion in imports in 2022. It exported $2.1 trillion. So we are importing a lot more than we are importing. And we're a very, very fragile nation. When you look at 90% of the pharmaceuticals that in this nation are imported from Asia. 90% of the pharmaceuticals are imported from Asia, mainly China. Just think, if we have a disagreement, a conflict with China, what happens? We don't get cheap products, aluminums, plastics, pharmaceuticals, steel, all kind of things. All those goods at your Walmart, your Targets, your Kohl's, the clothing, all that doesn't show up. We are so dependent on other countries, mainly China. Here's another one from the Hedge today. What are the Saudis really preparing for? So while the past week, while Americans are eating plates of food, while Americans are watching football games, while Americans are drinking beer, playing video games, Saudi Arabia and China have just announced they are opening a $7.3 billion local currency swap. And most people probably would just say, who cares? What's the big deal? Out of the way, I'm watching football. They are in the process of breaking away from the dollar, ladies and gentlemen. Who cares? Who cares? Everything is fine. Let me just watch football, drink beer, and eat a lot of food. And let me spend and buy things that are made in other countries with money I don't have, called a credit card. This will bring the two nations together, and it will bring the entire Middle East together with China, which will allow these countries to diversify more of their non-oil trade away from the dollar. Saudi Arabia will be taking yuan for oil. China will provide loans repayable in yuan. This happening in the Middle East right now, specifically Saudi Arabia. These are two power players. These are two BRIC nations. These are two very wealthy, powerful nations. On one side, you have China, which basically manufactures literally everything in the world. And over here, you have Saudi Arabia, the #1 oil producer on planet Earth. And they are going to break away from the dollar. This means those dollars come back. This means the dollar becomes weaker, your purchasing power becomes weaker, and you see more inflation. And what happens when more and more countries join the team, join the BRICS? You're going to have less purchasing power. You're going to have more inflation. Anybody that believes that inflation is going back to 2%, first off, anybody that believes inflation is 3.2% right now, I feel sorry for you. I really do. You're literally in the dark, and you're completely unprepared. And when I read an article like this of what's happening in the Middle East right now, what's happening with China, there is no doubt that owning gold is one of the best things I could have done. I don't give financial advice. Let me be very, very clear here. Some people believe I do. I've never given financial advice. I've always told people, do what your heart desires. You want to buy cryptos, you want to buy bonds, you want to buy stocks, you want to buy, Pokemon cards. Do what you feel you have to do. First off, be diversified. Don't keep all your money in one place. But me personally, as I've said for many, many years, I've been buying gold since it was $1,100, $1,200. Here we are, $2,000 plus right now. We're about $50, $60 from the all-time high, and nothing has broken yet. And gold is now hovering at $2,000, and nothing has even happened yet. When I read an article like this, and we know that Saudi Arabia is a big holder in gold, we know China holds more gold than anybody in the world, and I'm going to continue to do what the central banks are doing. I'm going to continue to do what China is doing. I'm going to continue to buy gold. And again, that's not financial advice. I'm here making videos, sharing with you my beliefs and what I'm doing. I'm not telling anybody to do anything. I'm sharing with you what I'm doing. And to the people out there that have all the answers, you should be making videos. You should be sharing with all of us your knowledge. You should be making videos about how everybody should be investing. I'm not an economist. I'm not in these markets right now except for a handful of junior miners, which is pure gambling. The main thing that I would say is to hold real things right now, not stocks, not bonds, things that you can hold and get to very, very quickly. And that's physical assets. And for me, that's gold, that's silver, especially gold. But watching stuff like this, it just reinforces with me the importance of gold because of where all this is going. And real quick, if you need a reliable, safe place to buy gold, go to my link down below, SD Bullion. Been dealing with them for 5 years. Buy wherever. If you want to buy gold, buy from whoever you want to buy from. Me personally, I buy from SD Bullion because I've been dealing with them for 5 years, and many of you 5 years ago told me I should be dealing with SD Bullion, and I did, and I never looked back. That's the only place I've bought my gold from. SD Bullion, link down below, fantastic company. Again, you can go buy Pokemon cards, you can go buy stocks, bonds, cryptos, do whatever your heart desires. And again, if you want to buy gold, you can buy from whoever you want to buy from. I'm not telling you what to do. That's just what I'm doing. Now I want to close with this last article. China confronts U.S. warship for serious violation in South China Sea. China claims the guided missile destroyer, the USS Hopper, had illegally entered into China's territorial waters. Now, I just can't even believe some of the stuff I'm watching. You know, I see that we're in 2 wars now, and the amount of money this has cost us. And it seems now we want to be in a 3rd war, that we just cannot stop provoking nations, that we just cannot stop being the world police. And here we are now, thousands of miles away in the China Sea, provoking China. I mean, do we really need a 3rd war? I mean, think about all the munitions, all the weapons, how much of our strategic petroleum reserves we've already depleted, and yet now we are poking yet another bear in the South China Sea that has the biggest military in the world, the 4 biggest banks in the world, the biggest producer in the world, and friends with Saudi Arabia, China, Iran, and a slew of other nations. And I just don't know what in the world we're thinking when we do this. Do we think that we can just dominate the entire world now, that we're going to go to war with the entire world? America is losing power. And I know, and that isn't because I'm sitting here going, oh, I don't like America, I hate America. I love this country. I love this country. I would die for this country. There's no other place I want to be than right here in the United States of America. But I don't like the people who are running this country into the ground. The people who want to continue to start wars all over the world and get innocent people killed and get your kids killed. I'm not sitting here being political. This isn't left or right. This is just right or wrong. And this is about economics too. We cannot afford to be doing this. We are a bankrupt nation, almost $34 trillion in debt. And yet we're going to start another war? How in the world can we do this? I mean, yes, I understand we have a printing machine where we just keep printing up money, but there's going to be a price to pay for all this, for all the money printing, for all the wars, the printing of money to support these wars. There's going to be, this all has to be paid back one way or another. And now people are realizing it because it's called inflation. You haven't seen anything yet. They are continuing to print so much money. And they're printing more money just to manipulate these markets. They're printing more money to finance these wars. They're printing more money for God knows what. And your purchasing power is going to reflect that. You want to know why things aren't getting better? Although they're telling you every day that the stock market's up and the economy's booming, but things aren't getting better. They're not getting better because your money's worthless. And it's going to continue to be more and more worthless. So be careful out there, ladies and gentlemen. Again, this isn't left or right. This isn't political. We're talking now economics about how in the world we're going to pay for all this. You want to start wars? Great. How are you going to pay for it? Print more money? Well, we're all going to pay a price for that. We're all going to lose on that. I don't get it. Please comment down below if you can make sense of it, because I can't. Have a great day. Have a great Sunday. I look forward to speaking to each and every one of you. Pray for this country, ladies and gentlemen. Pray for America. We need a miracle. God bless.